Luke Beveridge has signed a 2-year contract extension, Sammy. He already had this year. And as I've said previously, I don't get the reasons why they would need to rush into this deal. What's the benefit right now in December? So December 16, he's got 12 months. Right? Well, 12 months to go. What's the benefit?
Yeah. Well, the benefit is for him. I mean, going into the last year of your contract.
It's a team game for the club. What's the benefit for the club?
So his benefit is the club's benefit. If he is secure and happy and at ease and at peace and not feeling like the wolves are at the door, then I would say then that's good for the club. What is good for the coach is good for the club. So, I mean, Ken Hinkley's about to go into the last year of his contract with all sorts of scrutiny, media pressure, questions, not just for him, but questions for Tom Jonas, the leadership group, every player as the year goes on. If they, hit a few rocky spots.
So to use your example, though, it's better for Ken Hinkley to have a contract extension now, but it's not better for the club.
Well, it could be better for the club, though. Well, they're different. They're very different. They're very different people with very different resumes at very different clubs. I mean, if we just look at Luke Beveridge initially, so he's won a premiership. He's taken them to another grand final. He's played, of his 8 seasons at the Dogs, he's taken them to finals in 6 of them. He is the most successful coach the club has ever had. I would say be careful what you wish for. He's a proven entity. To get rid of him or not to re-sign him and run the risk of someone poaching him. And I read a quote that he gave to Mark Robinson in the Herald Sun that a club had already reached out in the last couple of months that he said he swatted away. But who says that if he's unsigned in July that he's going to swat the next one away? I mean, I think he's a proven entity. He's a good coach. Players come and go. I know he is a polarising figure amongst the Western Bulldogs fan base, and we get these texts all the time. I just think the guy can coach, and he's proven that he can coach.
I would have been much more comfortable to wait to the midway point of the year. No one's poaching him now. I mean, every coaching position is filled, so there's no immediate risk of Luke Beveridge going anywhere. I would have loved to have seen how the start to the year played out. They've got a difficult draw. There's no doubt he carried himself in interesting ways this year. The grand final was a complete disaster. This season was a complete disaster. The final against Fremantle was a disaster. And when you look at the list that they have got, I don't know, has he underperformed? Should there be another premiership in that? It was a long time ago, 2016. And how long do you get? Like, how long does 2016 buy you to the point where they're now locked in for another 3 years of Luke Beveridge? I'm not saying he's not the one to take them forward, but I would have liked a bit more evidence through 10 to 12 weeks at the start of this year.
So the criticism among many, and I think Kingy's big on this, is that they've never finished top 4. So but 2015, 6th. 2016, they won the premiership, obviously, from 7th, 10th, 13th, 7th, 7th, 5th.
They should have in 2021. I mean, they lost that home and away game to Port Adelaide late in the season, which made it difficult. And then they went on that extraordinary finals run where they played everywhere, which was so admirable and captivated us all. But by the end of it, in the second half of that grand final, they were absolutely cooked. 1300 736 736. I'm sure the Western Bulldogs fans are happy with that.
I don't think they all would be, to be honest. I reckon
we'll
they're
ask the
split.
question.
Yeah, well, let's get down to Tasmania because Dale wants to have his say on Luke Beveridge and the 2-year contract extension. Morning, Dale.
Morning, boys. How are you?
We're well.
That's good. Just as a side, I'm glad. Not that I'm glad, but he signed on, right? But if he hadn't have signed on, you blokes and everyone else in the media would just be talking about how he hasn't been signed yet. And we'd listen to it just about every news break. So, to be honest with you, I'm actually happy he signed so I don't have to listen to it anymore.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at. Yeah,
I wonder, though, does it matter? Does it even matter? So they've signed him for an extra 2.
Yeah, well, clubs are protected.
What if they lost the first 6? I mean, it doesn't matter. We're still going to be talking about Luke Beveridge being under pressure, and we know.
Yeah, but you know when they're out of contract. Yeah, but it means plenty in this.
Not as much as it used to.
The scrutiny, it would bring added scrutiny if he was out of contract. Absolutely, it would.
Brett Ratton signed a 2-year deal and then was gone.
Yeah,
but later.
But in the lead up, no one was thinking he was going to be sacked. That came as an enormous shock.
But now that we know that is the possibility.
Yeah, because clubs are protected by the 6 months, and that's a debate in itself.
Which is the dumbest rule that has ever been brought in to the coaching profession. And I wanted to ask Ross Lyon about that last night, whether... Well,
it's to protect the clubs, obviously, isn't it? It's to protect them from themselves.
Understand that, but that they can protect themselves by not doing stuff like this and extending coaches 12 months out before they have to.
So you mentioned their list, and I think the team around Luke Beveridge is as important as anything. So Brendan Lade comes in as an assistant and a senior assistant to strengthen that area. Chris Maple moves on, so they've put some resources in that area, the list. So they lost Josh Dunkley, which hurts, and they absolutely didn't want that. They were happy to trade Hunter, trade Cordy, trade Shackey. They picked up Rory Lobb, which is big. And if Liam Jones is the player that we remember, then he'll make a big difference. So it's Darcy, Lobb, Norton, English, Jamara, Bruce, Jones, Keith is the keys. It goes on and on.
Best young spine
amazing.
I've seen in a long time. Now, are they ready right now? No, they're not. But the future of the Western Bulldogs, and with the midfield that they've got as well, I mean, they've still got a lot of games left in that midfield group. And I like what Sam Power has done. And I heard him speak after the trade period. He said, look, the future's there, but we need to, in terms of the key position players, we need to support them with a bit more experience. And that's where Jones and Lobb come into the equation, that for 2 years they can be supportive to these young guys until they're ready to explode. So this is the point. They want for nothing on the list. So, I mean,
they did want for things this year, but now going forward.
Well, everyone wants for something, but they had as good a group as anyone else in the competition.
And now Bont, Libba, Bailey Smith, McRae, Treloar, McLean, Vandermeer, and who knows who else is coming through from underneath as the engine room. So not many clubs can lose Josh Dunkley and then reel those names off. So they will absorb that. But, it is now, on paper, it is a very, very good-looking squad.
Danny's on the line. He wants to have his say. Well, it wasn't Danny before, was it? G'day, Danny.
G'day, boys. How's it going?
Luke Beveridge, your thoughts?
I love what Bevo's done. 2 years extra. I think it's great news. I know, Kano, you're probably not sort of sold on him, but I think... in my side of things, I reckon he's been great, because when he took over in 2015, there was a lot of sort of turmoil, and culturally there was a lot of issues with the club, as you know, like with Griffin and so forth. But what he's done since 2016, been not only with the premiership, but even 2021, obviously, to make a grand final, I think he's been great. I just, talking about sort of coaches under pressure, though, I was going to say, well, one coach that sort of doesn't really get mentioned is actually Ken Hinkley, because he's been at Port. He hasn't sort of made any grand finals. He's made a few prelims and stuff like that. Hasn't won sort of the silverware either.
I reckon he gets mentioned a bit. Danny, I'll bow to Sammy's judgment on this. He's got a good lens of the new cycle, but I reckon Ken Hinkley, when it comes to coaches under pressure, gets mentioned a fair bit.
Yeah, Danny, he would probably disagree with that, I reckon, Kenny, if he were here. Certainly Koshy makes sure he's mentioned a fair bit as well, the president of the football club. So he's had 11 seasons. As you mentioned, never made a grand final. Obviously no flag. Of his 11 seasons, he's made finals in 5 of them. But I'm with him too. I reckon he's a proven... It's fine margins at the.
So would you extend? See, I wouldn't extend Ken.
No, well, Ken's been there for 11.
I love the man.
Yeah, but he's been there. I agree with you. I'm exactly the same as you. But he's been there for 11 seasons, right? And he hasn't won a premiership, and he hasn't been to a grand final. Now, I know
and 10's about the limit. Usually,
I reckon history would say if you get to 10 and you haven't saluted, and this might be harsh, but this is the reality. This is what history tells us: is that you are on the high wire.
But then Ross Lyon is in such demand. You know, and
absence makes the heart grow fonder too, I think, in a way.
Well, I know. So how much weight do we put on the actual premiership?
If Kenny was available, let's say Ken's available at the end of the next season.
If he was, I can tell you.
Oh, they'll come from everywhere.
Essendon would have fallen over themselves to sign Kenny. In fact, I'd be shocked if there wasn't a 5-year deal on the table.
Well, I'd be shocked if they didn't ask. I reckon they would have asked for sure. They should have. Yeah, I'm with you. I think he can coach. It's fine margins at the back end of a season, though. You know, a 3-point prelim loss here, 3-point prelim win there. They are bounce of the ball things that go beyond the coach's box. So there's some fate with these sort of things as well. The round 15, the fixture, it's always been a talking point, Kane, ever since the floating nature of it came in. Frank wanted to have his say. He's been waiting on the line patiently out in Wanturna. G'day, Frankie.
Yeah, g'day, boys. Yeah, have all the best for Christmas for you and the family.
And you too, Frank.
Well, I was just listening to some of the supporters regarding airfares, to go interstate. Why doesn't the club, AFL, get proactive, or even the clubs, and work out a point system or a discount with your membership, so that you can fly at a reasonable price interstate to watch your home team?
That is a very good point. So Virgin, major sponsor of the AFL. Surely they could come up with some sort of incentive for AFL members. I'd never thought of it until Frank had mentioned it. Should have. I'm not sure if they do. I'm assuming they don't. But if you are an AFL member, paid up, Virgin is the major sponsor of the AFL, why couldn't there be some sort of discount or coupon system for AFL members?
I don't have a great lens on this at all.
No.
I just assume that the
Good
airfares
idea.
and the airlines have done it extremely tough over COVID. I mean, the planes were grounded.
They discount
months.
airfares all the time.
Yeah. Don't know if they're just trying to recoup and make up for lost time.
Good suggestion, Frank. I like it.
Good on you, Frankie. Bulldogs are a basket case before Bevo was appointed. Great get. But then there's this one. Mark Thompson in 07 hadn't signed. That season turned out okay for Geelong. So there'll always be exceptions to every rule, no doubt about that.